What's good, everybody? Yes, indeed. We back with another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch, on this very special occasion because this is a birthday stream. That is right. Make some noise. Clap it up. Get excited wherever you are. We are back with another jam-packed episode for you today. We got so much to talk about on this celebratory stream as we got we can talk about basketball, boxing, the NBA, the whole shebang. Excuse me. Basketball, the NFL, and the NBA. My apologies, so souped up with energy. I'm almost losing myself. But welcome again to the first live recording of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Again, we did a live commentary. Now, this is the first actual show that we're doing on the channel. This has been great. This has been phenomenal. We've been building up to it. Again, apologies for the mishaps on said streams that I've been trying to do. We're still learning. We're still moving. We're still trying to perfect how exactly all this goes. But even still, that doesn't mean that we're going to dilute on the quality. Oh no, that ain't happening. Because of that, we got stuff to give to you, the people, and the viewing and listening public. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Oh, rather, actually, before we get into it, real quick, we're available on every podcasting platform. That is right, on Apple, Google, Spotify, and whatever major platform you can imagine. We are there, and we are available for you to stream and hear on every single, no, not stream, excuse me, go back and listen to on every single platform. And we'll post clips of the shows on various outlets as well. Oh, trust and believe we're growing, all thanks to you and your support. Without further ado, all that stuff aside, let's jump right into the show, shall we? Yes, indeed. We got so much to talk about, and first and foremost, with Canelo versus Edgar Berlanga. And since we're talking about boxing, it is time to step into the ring. That's right. I'll ring the bell. Let's get it started. Round one of this show underway, and we have to discuss, Canelo versus Berlanga, a fight that, again, we've covered it multiple times. People don't care or people don't want to see this fight, but there has been some intrigue with how much Berlanga has been talking, has been running his mouth, has been going out of his way and essentially selling the fight by being the brash, outlandish, outspoken person going against the big dog in Canelo Alvarez. Absolutely. He's been the man that has been really trying to get everybody to believe, hey, you don't want to miss this because this isn't going to be a knockout. This is going to be destruction. This is going to be outright oblivion on the side of Canelo, not on the side of Edgar Berlanga, though that's what many people would want to go and believe, understandably so, with how Berlanga is, for lack of a better term, undermanned, or not undersized, undermanned, outmatched in nearly every single department imaginable when it comes to what this boxing game really is about. He's outclassed. We understand this. We get this wholeheartedly. We see that Berlanga has no real shot at being it from a technical perspective, from an experience perspective, from a outright boxing ability. Berlanga has nothing outside of power. And even power, he's outmatched. Because like we said before, after he's taken that first step, after the 16 straight KO streak that he had on his resume, after that he went and fought and stepped up his competition, elevated the level of combatants that were put in his way in the end goal, of being able to reach the zeniths of the Canelos and the Benavidez's, the rest of the big name boxing public in not just the middleweight division, but just in all of boxing, seen as a Mike Tyson-like figure, now relegated to a potential bona fide scrub and a bum when it comes to a box office appeal and outright talent as a whole. We don't see him as somebody that is really able to make some noise. This is his coming out part, as well as his essentially jumping off point. Either he jumps off and flies and soars through the sky, turns into a can't miss budding star, a surprising budding star that many people see as a shock because one of the biggest upsets in boxing. Boom, your name is cemented forever. Or he falls off the ledge into obscurity, into outright oblivion. Nobody cares because nobody sees him as anything more than just a joker. a literal joke. A loudmouth person who is young, hasn't developed, hasn't gotten any experience viable to make him really worth anybody's time, on top of the fact that he won't be seen probably ever in the highlight of boxing fandom. The whole ability to make or break his career comes down to this essentially. Because if he loses this, loses everything in terms of the real staple in big time fights, big time money, and somebody that people want to see. Unless he puts on a dominant performance or a competitive performance in this fight, most likely that ain't gonna happen. Most likely. But if it does happen, well, hey, chips fall where they may. My gosh, we see two sides of the coin. One side, Canelo, were you exposed outright as somebody who now your age and your youth have not only caught up with the begotten away from you, and this makes the conversation for the Benavidez fight completely different, wholeheartedly different in the eyes of everybody. But if he wins, what are we going to say? We're going to say two things. One, you should have done this. You should have knocked him out. You should have beat him. And two, we're going to say this is another cherry pick. This is another, it's a blase fight for a elite contender, and there's no business being had with you being in the ring with somebody of this low caliber. That's the biggest thing with this fight that many people are calling out, and justifiably so. When it comes to Canelo and when it comes to his career, we're looking at a man who is, for lack of a better term, is choosing his own legacy, understandably so. We talked about this before, but he's choosing it for the wrong reason. He's choosing a legacy that is not built to actually compound on itself, if that makes sense. Since this dominant reign as former undisputed super middleweight champion. As you know, he got stripped and let the IBF belt go, I believe. And so now, no longer undisputed, but still reigning as the best super middleweight in the world, understandable, the biggest name in boxing, that all still holds true. That hasn't changed. But what is continuing to evolve and shift and make people look at Canelo in a completely different light is the inability to have your legacy continually tested. Your complacency with just being at the top rather than making your throne even more grandiose. See, here's the thing. Do you know what made Game of Thrones so fun and exciting to watch? The grandeur of it all. It wasn't just the ability to have, dragons and fantasy and all that stuff. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that the grandeur of the world and the grandeur of said throne was impactful. It made people see, if you sit here, my gosh, this is a true testament to your greatness in the show. But with Canelo and in the boxing world, the same thing sort of goes about. When you're sitting on the throne in boxing, or a throne in boxing, you have an opportunity not just to be seen as one of the tops of the top in the boxing landscape and in all the sports, but also to make your throne bigger than anybody else's, to build up your kingdom, per se, at a level that nobody else can reach. To make it so that when your kingdom eventually falls, or when you turn over the throne to somebody else, i.e. the next generation, you then turn into a benchmark, a platform, a standard, that which everybody else wants to achieve and reach. You go and see yourself, or others then see you as, my gosh, this throne is impeccable. If I can take it from him, this would be so much more momentous. If I can reach it, let's say he retires, and then boom, doesn't give a throne over to anybody, and it's just boom, I'm done. Now, you're looking at his legacy, his throne, as a marker for success, of a vantage point that you see off in the horizon, a mountain that stands high above everybody else, and even amongst the greatest of all time. Now you're seen as a standard that we need to reach and get to. And if I can even get my throne in my time to get to half the length that you have in your time, then I'll be successful. That's what history does when we talk about compounding your ability on itself. And with this fight with Berlanga, It's not happening. It just isn't happening. Now, the reason why I talk about all this is because essentially, when we look at Canelo afterwards, what is his next step? How is this going to go? Because we have to look at it from a vantage point of who else are you going to fight now? What after Berlanga, the only other opportunities you can fight are people that either A, you've already beaten, or B, any real contender isn't really a real contender. Because the only real contender that we want to see that would give you a pass to then fight whoever else you wanted would be Benavidez. But what's happening with David Benavidez? Locked up with a full potential opportunity to have an undisputed title fight with Bivol or Benavidez, depending on who wins that fight. On top of the fact, what do we have also? He's also scheduled to fight, I believe in November or December, potentially. It's been rumored that he's going to fight. And we'll get to that rumor later on. Him and Tank may share the same fight date again later this year in November. We'll get to that. But point still stands. Looking at Canelo and the rest of the landscape, what exactly is it that we're going to see? What exactly is it that he can do in order to make himself seen as viable? Or in order for his next step to be seen as credible, or not just wishy-washy, not just, why are you doing this? What is the point? It won't be like that. That's gonna be the truth. If he had fought David Benavidez, excuse me. Now that he's not, the landscape of super middleweight is relatively cleaned out. Again, David Morrell, 175. Benavidez, 175. Billy Joe Saunders ain't fought in a couple years. Caleb Plant, you knocked out and beat handily. Boo Boo Andre, you could fight him. Then you'll be getting the seconds of David Benavidez, and we most likely see that you would beat him relatively the same way. Maybe a little bit different because you struggle with movers and people that have, that are awkward a little bit more. But even still, most likely we'll see the same thing. That most likely won't change. And because of that, what else is there? What else is there for Canelo? And it's not really much unless he just opts to move up outright to 175 or gets David Benavidez to come back down to 168 to fight him. He does that, boom, we're golden. He doesn't, we keep on looking at his legacy as something completely different. Now, when it comes to the fight itself, we've already covered how this fight is going to go. Got Canelo beating him in 5 rounds. Dare I say knocking him out in 3. But is there really any shot for Berlanga to win? Is there any actual opportunity that we can look at this fight coming up tomorrow to really say that he can do anything? And we've been saying no, we've been saying a puncher's chance, but the biggest thing is going to be, the only thing that Berlanga can do is literally throw caution to the wind and go for broke. Utilize his strength and power as his main means of success. And if he does that, then what we see is a potential opportunity that, hey, something lucky could land. Something could actually, with your power, it could buzz him. It could make him respect you. And if Canelo has to respect you, you're not saying you're still going to win, but now it's a completely different war that you have to fight. It's not an opponent that just doesn't see you as anything of a threat. Now, with him having some respect, there's at least something that he's got to think about. That it was successful. Now, we gotta make do what we can. We gotta do what we gotta do. Since that's the case, we can see potentially something land with Berlanga. He lands something. He gets KO. Well, not KO, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Ho. Let me stop that right there. He won't get KO. Let's stop that right now. Canelo ain't getting knocked out by Berlanga. That's not happening. He could potentially have some respectable power. He's not getting knocked out. And real quick, sorry about the whole looking off camera, trying to make sure the stream is working as appropriately. Again, it's a one-man show out here, so excuse me if I'm not as fervently staring into the abyss that is the YouTube landscape and the fans that you are. And I appreciate every one of you joining and coming in, but even still, we're trying to make this work. Again, I'm new to this, so apologies if stuff is going a little bit awry. But now we're back. Everything should be handled. We're good now. Oh, also, Talk KO. Appreciate you joining into the stream. Thank you so much. It's a birthday stream. We celebrating my birthday week. Yes, indeed. And what better way to do it than with you all the fans talking about the sport of boxing and the NBA and the NFL. Again, we talk about everything on the show when it comes to sports. We are a all-around media hub, and thank you for joining in and tuning in to this show. I appreciate it. Yeah, happy birthday. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. And if you can, go on and leave a like, get everybody else involved, share this stream and share the channel with everybody so you can get more of what we got to offer right here on the Welch Report, available on every podcasting platform. But again, you're absolutely right. You got it within 3 to 6. I got it within 3 to 6. But again, the conversation is, what can Berlanga do? And if he doesn't, and the only thing he can do really is power. There's nothing else he can really do. And with Berlanga, there is the only, it's with Berlanga, you know what the biggest thing is? The biggest thing with Edgar Berlanga is the fact that with this fight, it's not about if you can win. Because as I've stated earlier, if Berlanga loses this fight, most likely his career as any sort of box office appeal is out the window. He's done, most likely. But since that's the case, we know he's going to lose. We know he's most likely going to get knocked out. The question is how and what type of performance will he put up? Berlanga's career, more so in this fight, depends on what he does in this fight. If he can make this somewhat competitive, if he can show some level of excitement and grit, all may not be lost. It may not be. All may not be for naught in terms of him taking this fight. It's a big payday for him, sure, but outside of that, there's nothing more. But if he just wets the bed, does what we saw Jermell Charlo do, does what we've seen from other people, which is, we're just taking the fight just because it's a big money payday, not necessarily because it will, I actually believe that I can win. Yes, we've heard him talk. Yes, we've heard him converse. Yes, we've heard him in press conferences. Yes, we've heard him in weigh-ins. We understand he can talk the talk. Once you step in the ring, now it's a completely different story. But if he can back up the fervor outside the ring with the fervor inside the ring, now, bing, bang, boom. Hey, just like with Isaac Cruz, a relatively unknown, with a lot of people, Berlanga is a relatively unknown. Let's get that straight right now. But since that's the case, what do we get to see? We then see Edgar Berlanga get some respect, which is something I doubt we're going to see happen. I don't even have respect for him now in terms of his talent. As a boxer, absolutely. I don't know him personally. I just know what he is. And he is, hey, he's in a warrior sport. You got to give respect where respect is due. But beyond that, now, we don't see him as a real viable threat at all. But if we see him put some level of competent boxing in the ring with Canelo, now, sky's the limit potentially for what he can do as doors continue to open. But again, don't think that's going to happen. We will most likely see Berlanga get knocked out, get KO'd in dominant fashion. Another highlight reel to the legacy of Canelo in a fight that, for the majority of the people, is a why fight. Why take this when you could have had other reputable, better options at your disposal as a bona fide champion, as one of the best in the world, with your name literally carrying the weight of boxing on its shoulders? Regardless of who you think is the face of boxing, whether it's Tank, whether it's Canelo, don't matter. Canelo is one of the biggest names. In my opinion, he is the face. But beyond that, he's carrying the sport on his shoulders. Because of that, what he does and how he operates in said sport takes the rest of the sport with him. And by that I mean, it takes everybody, because they see what you do, that then perpetuates out to the reputation of everybody else in boxing. It's a sham. We don't see the fights that we want to see. We don't get any of the real action and any real competitive nature that we want to see. Because look at what we're doing with one of the biggest names in the sport. It's blasé. It's ho-hum. It's ridiculous. If we're being completely honest, paying all this money for a fight that don't mean anything, that really doesn't have any competitive nature, isn't with somebody that is on the same level. Well, why in the world am I paying all this money for a pay-per-view event when this should be more so something that we see in a bingo hall, in a disco environment, and just on ABC, since they have a partnership with ESPN, free on ESPN outright. That's what this should be. There's no reason why this don't have this as a public or as a pay-per-view event when it's not worth our time as fans. 'Cause we're still fans here. Yeah, I value myself as a media pundit trying to be a journalist and an analyst that can give everybody fun and excitement as well as break down in-depth knowledge. But still, that doesn't mean I'm still paying for this stuff. I'm still paying for this stuff. I'm still taking my time out to watch these fights. And since that's the case, if Canelo is not doing something that is worth us paying for, the rest of the boxing world and even casual fans that just know of Canelo will look at this sport because they care about Canelo and see him as the face of boxing. Now, his moves ripple throughout the rest of the boxing landscape. And because of that, we see Canelo making this sport look bad. And when the sport looks bad, everybody suffers, both from the top all the way to the bottom. Again, you have outliers like Tank and Ryan Garcia. Boom, mega fight everybody wants to see it. You'll still have people selling out events, yes, but the grander landscape of boxing doesn't benefit. It doesn't. You can't make more stars when people continue to not watch the sport due to they continually, when they look at the biggest of big names, rarely do we get a fight that is worth their time. Hence, they tune back out. Because if that would be like, again, it would make no sense. They'd be like if Mike Tyson, as much of a big name as he was, never fought Evander Holyfield. Took umpteen years before he got into the level of championship status. Even though we saw clearly he was far and away better than everybody. If he never fought Trevor Berbick, never fought Frank Bruno, never fought Evander Holyfield. If all those fights never happened, yet he was still being perpetuated as, yo, this is the big thing in the sport. People will still tune out because at that point, even with the knockouts, as exciting as he can be, he wouldn't save you because at that point, you're not being tested. People want to be tested. We want to see competitiveness in the sport, regardless of what sport it is. Also, oh my gosh, hey, thank you. Oh, we got some people in the chat. Oh, shoot. $90 fucking thank you, Joseph S. And hey, boxing Mike? Sorry, my monitor is a little janky. Yeah, we working on a budget over here. Oh, we got yeah, $90 for a cherry pick Canelo is a joke. It is a joke because this isn't again, we respect the fighter. We respect anybody that steps in the ring, but we don't respect being scammed and taken advantage of. We as fans, as experts, pundits, whoever the word you may categorize as, we value. And the sport for all this time, 2023 was one of the best years in boxing. And as much as great as it was, don't get me wrong, we got every fight that we wanted to see. The fact that was an anomaly is a problem. It's a major problem in the world of boxing, in the world of sports as a whole, specifically with boxing. Because you don't have this problem in the UFC, do you? No, you don't. You don't have this problem with the UFC. The problem with the UFC is the fact that everybody's leaving. But when everybody was there, you got the fights that you wanted to see. You did. That's just that was the nature of the beast. You got the fights that you wanted to see when all of the major stars were in the UFC at their quote-unquote talented peak. You got Nurmagomedov versus McGregor. You got McGregor versus Diaz. You got McGregor rematching Diaz. You got consistently people coming up and making things happen. That's what you did. That's what you made. You, as the UFC, created a sport and created a cultivating atmosphere where everybody felt like a threat. Everybody felt viable because everybody got pitted against each other. And you didn't need one or two losses, didn't make or break a career. No. We still love you and want to see you, even if you got some losses, because you are and you bring the bang every time you step in the ring. That is, or the octagon, excuse me. That's what the UFC did to make such a rabid fan base. Boxing, Floyd Mayweather era, specifically, which really started all of this, got to a point where the record was everything, and the resume doesn't mean as much. Since that's the case, we're just now starting to get out of that trend. Just now. We're still reverting back a little bit, but we're just now getting out of that trend. Since that's the case, we got to do what we got to do. That means we have to make sure that we hold these people accountable. Hold fighters' feet to the fire. Hold him. We got to hold him to the fire. Hold him to the flame. We do that. Put our money where money deserves. Now, sky's the limit. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I will say the sooner he retires, the better. I don't know if that's true. I don't know about it. I don't know about it. Let's be frank. We still love Canelo. At least I still love watching Canelo. No, just because somebody somebody can still be great, even if they're messing up. Again, Tank. For the longest time, I've been saying the brother outside of Frank Martin wasn't fighting top level talent at that stage in his career when he should have. Mind you, he went beat Pedraza, beat Leo Santa Cruz, phenomenal fights, budding star, went and fought Gamboa, though Gamboa had an Achilles injury, I believe, on that night, and in my opinion was more so out the loop from my estimation, just my estimation. But even still, fought him, and then afterwards, we were expecting him to go after more championships. Once he moved up to 135, the best weight possible. Didn't do what he was supposed to do. Didn't go and fight the best of the best. Understandable. Floyd didn't want him fighting Lomachenko. We covered that on the show before. After he got out from under Floyd, still didn't fight Lomachenko. Now Lomachenko 37-38 is taking a break from boxing. Now he wants to call him out and fight him. You could have done it before. Then fighting Frank Martin, a perfect way to start and get him on his way into legitimately going and beating top end competition on a consistent basis. He still got to be consistent. Still got to be consistent. And then we're going to get to him and his next fight potentially in a little bit. In fact, about like 5 minutes. But even still, it's a matter of the main point in all of this was to say, with how much boxing is on a lifeline in terms of it's got the potential to explode back into one of the biggest sports in America, let alone the world. It's on the cusp. Because we've had the momentum of 2023 plus now. But when your big stars like Canelo continue to do this type of stuff that doesn't make the whole of the sport look good, because many casual fans or just passers-by only care about the big names when they don't do what they're supposed to do in terms of taking on the competition at their level. Business and all that stuff aside, understanding the business of boxing, even still, forget all that. With strictly the fights and the product, that's where the problem lies. They won't care. Hence, they won't come back. Hence, we'll be stagnated in, well, we got good fights, but now nobody cares. Because nobody's returning. The returning fan isn't returning. You know what I'm saying? That's what the biggest issue is. But again, Mike, let's see. Boxing Mag, I know. Excuse me for saying that correctly. But you already bought the fight. Phenomenal. Glad you bought the fight. I hope you enjoy it. I hope the card is worth it. Absolutely. No issue. I hope that you enjoy the fight. Absolutely. I'm not saying boycott the fight or anything, but I am saying in the future, potentially if you don't like what a fight has to offer, you could put your money where your mentality is and show them up. Not saying, I'm not advocating. If you still want to see it, see it. No problem there. I need to see it because I got to do this for a living. No, absolutely. But way to affect it is with your wallet and with your voice. Trust me, they will respond. Especially when you get on their legacy as a whole. You're not as great as you think you are. Now people get hurt. Now people want to prove you wrong. Now, that's when the pressure really gets hot for a lot of fans. But again, please, like the show. Like the stream to help get the numbers up and the views up. We still got a lot to cover on the show, so I appreciate you all joining in and listening already. Let's see here, talk sport. Let's see, talk of SD. Getting the fight this weekend. I enjoy boxing, especially with up and comers. Yeah, Pro Box has been doing a phenomenal job with getting fights at a I'm not gonna say at a lower level, but at the up and coming level, Pro Box is doing a phenomenal job in terms of putting on free fights every week on YouTube. Anybody can watch it, and they're exciting. A lot of them are really exciting. Some of them are, some of them are a little bit, not as good, but it is enjoyable. It's a product that fits not just the medium, but also what is actually being put out there. Ain't bad either. It isn't. And if more promoters went that same route of consistently putting on great cards, great fights, willing to match up every fighter with their apropos counterpart. We could see a lot more diehard fandom and a lot more up and coming stars that get taken or that get recognized by the public. Could you put them in a position to actually be seen and be known instead of just only relying on one cash cow and everybody else blase, blase, blase? If you get what I'm saying. But again, we still got more to cover. We can't talk about Canelo forever because we still got more to cover, like with breaking news coming out of the boxing landscape. My gosh, the Bronze Bomber might be back. Oh boy. Oh my. This is real. It's real. As shocking as it may be, it is real. The Bronze Bomber might be back in boxing. As per Malik Scott, even before we came on live on this show, we got to see Malik Scott is saying Bronze Bomber will be back. He will fight again. Mind you, he was just saying after he got knocked out in dominating fashion by Big Bang Jean. If he lost that fight, this would be it. I've even said that his career is over, and understandably so. It should be seen as over because he has gone through the most of the top talent in boxing. Drew and lost twice to Tyson Fury, knocked out twice. Third fight being one of the greatest fights in modern heavyweight history, understandable. Then got beat by Joseph Parker in an absolute whitewashing display. Then got KO'd by Zhang, and again, a whitewashing display. Now we see him potentially making his way back into boxing as per his trainer, but it shouldn't happen. Let's cut the legs from under that right now. It should not happen. Because at this stage in Wilder's career, he has done what I continue to say that he will do, which is never evolve. For all the stuff that he has added to sports, for all the power, for all the legitimate one-punch detonating ability, the greatest right hand that I've ever seen in the history of boxing, bar none, he can't utilize it. He's even become gunshot in using it in the first place. And even then, it used to be. Now I was saying the greatest right hand was also backed up by one of the greatest 1-2s I've seen. Because his ability at his best to, regardless of what you want to say about his boxing talent, he could line up that 1-2 in any given situation, in any given space, without any form of real trouble. And whenever the coin was gone, whenever it seemed like he was getting counted out, it would be, he lands it. He gets it done. He does. That's what it was for the majority of his career. He lost most of that fight to Luis Ortiz in the second affair. Lost every round up until the pinpoint KO in the 7th round. Was losing to Ortiz in the first fight, which was a lot more competitive, but even still was getting down on the cards, had gotten wobbled and rocked, looked like he was in trouble. Next thing you know, the power lands, and he ends it with the uppercut, and the fight's over. So we knew what he was, but now it's not the same. Oh, now it's not the same at all. His ability as a pro, or rather as an elite pro, it's no more. It's done. It should be seen as done. He should not return to the sport. He won't learn the technical ability. He can't learn better technical ability. He can't learn at this point in time more layered offense and defense that he can combine in a fluid fashion. He just can't. It's not possible at this stage in his career. It just isn't. And since it's not, we don't want more damage done to this brother than it's already been done in his career with the consecutive damage or the concussive damage that he took from the Tyson Fury fights, with the horrible showing that he showed against Joseph Parker, with him getting outright washed by Jean. It's no more. It shouldn't be anymore. It shouldn't be. Oh yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. If you gotta go handle some stuff, talk SD. Talk of SD. No problem. Appreciate you checking out the stream again. Love that you came out. If you want to leave a like before you leave, no problem. But again, if you gotta go, no issue there. Thank you for coming and celebrating with this great live stream. Hopefully you'll be back for more. We got so much we want to talk about on the channel. Oh, we got a lot for you to be able to discuss. Absolutely. But even still, last thing with Wilder. If Wilder does come back, the only thing Wilder should be fighting is absolute scrubs. That's it. The only thing that Wilder should be fighting is absolute scrubs in the boxing, in the heavyweight game. Because he's got to build himself up from scratch. He's already old. He's already a person who is experienced a lot in his career. Already started boxing late. He's got to make himself be essentially do over entirely. Getting rid of Mark Breland, one of the worst things in his career. Because at that Wilder was completely different from what we're seeing from Malik Scott. Completely different. Now, since that's the case, we're looking at a Wilder who, whether you get knocked out again, it might be irreparable damage down the line for your career, for your life as a whole. I'm telling you, it's a big problem. Wilder, as a boxer, should not be in the sport anymore. He shouldn't. And if he does, he better go from the bottom of the barrel on up. If he wants any form of opportunity to really make himself, any way, shape, or form, a viable option for potentially a real competitive comeback, rather than just getting it in for the money. He shouldn't come back at all. He's done, in my opinion. And if he does come back, brother, I'm scared. I really am scared. Not for his opponent, but for him. Truly. I'm scared for Deontay Wilder. But again, we still got more to cover as we go through another part of the show with Gervonta Tank Davis. That's right. One of the most destructive forces in boxing today is not scheduled for an opponent. Or rather, doesn't have an opponent on his roster right now. Scheduled to come back in November this year. Scheduled to fight. However, issue is, who is he going to fight against? What is he supposed to do now? Everybody's locked up. And so what the world are you supposed to do in 2 months to get an opponent ready to fight you as Tank? So you still gotta hold up your contract. What is it that you're going to be able to do? Well, you have really one option. That's El Rayo. Valenzuela, who just beat Isaac Cruz. You got him as a potential option to fight. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. He could come out and you could fight him. He just recently champion. Doesn't have anybody on the cards right now. Could be a viable option. But will you take it? Will that fight even be made? And you, again, as I said earlier, can't fight Lomachenko because he's off and away. Shakur, injured. Was going to fight Joe Cardona. Wasn't. But now is off on the entire card because of hand injury. Who else was it? Who else was it that he could have? Honestly, nobody else. That was honestly it. I'll tell you again. Devin Haney, you could fight Devin Haney, but if Devin Haney came back to fight Tank Davis on 2 months' notice after the absolute shellacking that he got against Ryan Garcia, that would not make any sense in the world because we already know what happened with Ryan Garcia. Again, drugs or not aside, just strictly on the production. Brother, that was horrible. That was exposing in the brightest of lights possible. Now, when you get looked at Tank, you want to fight him, who's a league's better fighter than Ryan Garcia, who already put out Ryan Garcia. And you don't have any power coming your way or coming out of you to make him dissuade in any way, shape, or form. Frank Martin at least had some level of respectable pop that at least made Tank have to take a little longer in being or offensively active. He at least had that going for him. You have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. So no, that fight ain't gonna happen either. So the only thing that he's got is against Valenzuela, El Rayo, which is respectable because he, one, is a champion, two, beat Isaac Cruz, who is also the man that gave Tank one of his hardest fights. Tank wouldn't even rematch him. But still, it's not a cherry pick because he's doing what I've been saying he wanted to do, or what I've been saying that he should do all this time. Go after belts in your career. He's been on record saying that the belt means nothing. No, the belt still means something. Regardless of what the bodies that be have disfranchised and essentially lowered the value of titles as a whole. No, they still mean something. You still have to be a champion. Undisputed champion is an incredible accomplishment. Only a couple people have done it in the modern day of boxing. Clarissa Shields. We had Usyk in a way, Crawford. Beyond that, there's not many. So titles hold weight in the boxing realm. You said they didn't mean anything because of your name and cachet. Well, now you see that just because you are a big box office name, legacy is still a matter of fact that you have to establish for yourself. We've already talked about how he doesn't want to fight late into his life. So he wants to be out the sport at about 32 or 33, 34 just about. So he ain't got long in this business. Now he's going about the right approach. Those later in his career go after legacy, finally. So, hence, fighting El Rayo seems like a fight that makes sense. Wholeheartedly. Now, with that being said, there is a caveat to that, though. And that caveat, more than anything, is when he fights El Rayo, if he fights El Rayo, it's going to be at 140 most likely. Because El Rayo is a big brother. Getting to 135, it just ain't in his forte, from what I can understand. Since that's the case, we see Tank go and fight at 140. Again, after beating Mario Barrios at 140. Then at this point, there is no point in him ever fighting below his weight class. None whatsoever. None. I repeat, none. If he does not fight at 140 for the rest and take on people like Devin Haney, like Teofimo Lopez, and rematching Ryan Garcia and fighting Valenzuela only because Valenzuela can be seen as, even though he beat Isaac Cruz, understandable, as the weaker of the strong, big echelon of 140, then at that point, there is no excuse. There would not be an excuse. And you not fighting anybody, you not fighting Tio, would now be an incredible disservice. It would be incredible. Because you can't fight Lomachenko. Shakur is out with injury. I wanted you to fight Shakur. Wanted it to happen. Yeah, most likely it was going to be after we saw Tank fight, or after we saw Shakur fight Joe Cardina at Bivol versus Beterbiev on that undercard. Boom, we see then the fight with Tank gets made. Plain and simple. Everybody's happy. The true test of boxing purist versus, again, the steamrolling counterpuncher who is also an incredibly good boxer, established and done. But now that everybody else is injured, you fight Valenzuela at 140, because most likely that's what that fight would be, because one, Valenzuela is a champion, and two, Valenzuela can't make 140, can't make 135, most likely. You go up there and you fight him, let's say, and you beat him, then there's no point in you not fighting Teofimo Lopez. No point in you now not fighting Devin Haney, regardless of what you want to say about how he wouldn't sell. Yes, he would, because people want to see Devin Haney versus Tank still. People still would want to see, though we know the outcome. Fighting Ryan Garcia at 140 in a rematch at 2025. No problem. But it's got to happen. It has to. If you fight at 140, there would be no excuse. If you went and fought Mario Barrios, then fighting Valenzuela for a title, it wouldn't make any sense that now you couldn't fight the rest of the big names at the division in boxing. You couldn't. It wouldn't make any sense at all. It wouldn't make none. Because everybody reputable is at the higher weight class. And your legacy is going to be dependent on who you beat when it's all said and done. Regardless of your talent, it's still who did you beat and how did you look? You beat Ryan Garcia. Phenomenal. There's still controversy around, well, did you wager him and all that stuff? Regardless of which, you beat him and you knocked him out. Now people saying he will be better at 140. He looked better at 140. Again, Austrian and stuff aside, and we've covered that whole Austrian situation. But he looked better at 140 outright. Even just before we realized, or even before the Austrian whole thing. We were saying, oh yeah, he looks bigger. He looks better. He looks better. Now, there's no semblance or no hindrance for you to say, yep, let's make that fight happen now at this weight class. Because you can do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. If you don't, though, it's going to be a major problem. Major problem, at least in my estimation. Again, that's just me. Because at this point, Tank is somebody who can fight at high levels and across weight classes, who's got the ability, already shown, to handle and knock out people at 140. Got the ability to adapt and overcome length in size, like he did against Barrios. This is the marker of what he is. Hence, test yourself now against everybody who is at your level or seen as at your level. Because one thing I'm sick of is seeing Tank fans continually have people come out and somebody has a good performance. Now, go up, send him to Tank and knock him out. Sick of it. Reason being is because Tank hasn't even pushed himself to that degree. And you're trying to push other people to fight Tank when, one, the weight class discrepancy is huge. And two, they can be more accomplished than Tank. But even still, everybody's got a problem because you're not Tank. Well, Tank hasn't proved anything in his own right up until just recently. So it's got to be, for all the talent he's got at his disposal, production and who you fight is still the main priority. Hence, you've got to push yourself and make yourself known. Make yourself credible. Not saying Tank is incredible, but make your talent and your resume match up with each other. Like with Inoue, like with Terrence Crawford, like with Canelo Alvarez, like with David Benavidez. We can go down the list. Like with all these other great boxers and fighters. Like with Usyk. Like with AJ. Everybody has proven their resume to match their skill. Tank hasn't done that yet. And he's just getting started with what he did with Frank Martin. He continues this, it's great. He doesn't, we got a problem. We got a major problem. Speaking of Anthony Joshua, as we move on to this next segment of the show, with AJ versus Daniel Dubois also happening, I believe, the week after this. If I have my fight dates correct, it'll be on the 21st. We have already established AJ's going to knock out Daniel Dubois. AJ's going to destroy Daniel Dubois, at least in my estimation, because of the right hand that we saw Dubois get caught with consistently by Hrgovic a couple months ago. Now, going up against AJ, who's a stronger, more powerful, faster, and more destructive power puncher. No, and one of his best punches is the right hand coupled with the uppercut. No, there's no way that I can see Dubois winning, at least in my estimation. But, even with that being the case, with Dubois, one, can he win? Is there any possible way? Two, AJ's performance, what do we need to expect? And I ask that because of two things. One, we understand, first question, can Dubois actually win in any way, shape, or form? Yes, he can, with his grit and determination and power. It is possible. With him, if he's able to eat the punches of AJ, because it doesn't have good head movement, doesn't have great defense, he's more he is flat-footed, let's be perfectly honest. And so he relies on, in this rejuvenated career, strength, power, chin. He does that going up against AJ, and somehow he's able to take the constant bombardment of clean right hands and close the distance. Now we got a fight. We got a real fight. We got a real opportunity that we can see Dubois potentially have an upset. Land something like a hook across the head that AJ doesn't see coming in the flurry of infighting. Next thing you know, we got another Andy Ruiz situation. And down goes AJ. Will he recover this time? What will he be made of? All that's absolutely true. On the flip side, when it comes to AJ specifically, what type of performance do we need to see from this man? Because while we deem him as most likely able to win, with his ability and his talent, from what we've seen as he's reinvented himself, which he has, which people, you can love him or hate him, he did that. He made himself better. He made himself advantageous and lean into his better skill sets. He's gone back to the drawing board and systematically broke down and built back up who he is and what he is and what he does. And an incredible ability and an incredible test of will and outright mental fortitude. He climbed back from what seemed like an endless abyss of ridicule, fear, suspense, and all around just questioning who he was as a boxer and as a person. Got out of that. Made himself better. Went and KO'd Ngannou. Went and beat Otto Walling. Looks, dare I say, as destructive as he used to. the old AJ is back, which I was waiting to actually say for the longest time. I can say that he's here. But now that he's here, how long will he stay? Talked about this before. You can even go back and look on the breakdown that I have on this very channel of AJ versus Daniel Dubois. Broke the whole thing down in a past episode and then got the clip up there. You can go watch it, absolutely. But with AJ, the mental game is the biggest game. The mental game is going to be the biggest fight. This is an opportunity to become a champion again because, again, the IBF title is on the line because Usyk relinquished it. Usyk's no longer undisputed. But he can be undisputed if potentially the winner of this fight faces him after his rematch with Tyson Fury. So since that's the case, we see AJ and Dubois on two collision courses to rejuvenate their career and get to the mountaintop that we thought he could get to in terms of Dubois and AJ get back to the throne that he used to claim. But it's a battle of will. It's a battle of fortitude. It's a battle of test. It's a battle of who wants it more? Who wants it more? Who's ready to fight and dig deep? Who is ready to make this moment theirs? Who's willing to pull themselves out of outright despair if it comes to it? Because both of these people have been knocked down. Both of these people have been tested. Both of these people have been called quitters. Both of them have had their careers derailed. Both of them understand what it means to go and make yourself great again. To break yourself down and build yourself. Both of them know. Since they know, will AJ's will stand up to the will of Dubois? It's a real question. It's going to be a question for the rest of his career. If AJ's will and his ability and mental fortitude does not take hold in this fight with Dubois, and he doesn't hold on to that fortitude of like George Foreman said, I'd rather die than lose, then there's no way he can win. It's going to be there. Even with as much as we know, AJ's a better boxer. AJ's a more powerful boxer. AJ's a better well-rounder. AJ has more experience. AJ in every single facet of the boxing landscape is better than Daniel Dubois. There is no question in anybody's mind that isn't the case. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, absolutely not. There's none. None whatsoever. AJ is wholeheartedly the better boxer in this fight. But what Dubois has is the biggest weakness in AJ. And that is the mental will and the mental strength. It is. It's just the case. Even though I've said that AJ has built himself back up and the old AJ is back, that does not mean that it's still on shaky ground of whether or not if AJ gets put in a situation where he is caught and he is hurt and he's put into a dog fight and he can't get out of separation of completely whitewashing Dubois. And we see Dubois put AJ in a situation where he's got to find himself again. If he cracks and hurt AJ, he gets him in a state of, oh my goodness, I'm back to where I lost everything. Now, if AJ can't fight back, it's done. It's over. It is over. This is the biggest test for AJ ever since Ngannou, if I'm being completely honest. Because Ngannou was the solidification that AJ was indeed back to what he needs to be. Because of the fight that Ngannou gave to Tyson Fury, a close affair that I deemed, if it was called correctly, he should have won. But when everybody was saying, my gosh, this powerhouse of a man in Ngannou was able to come to boxing in his first fight and at that point in time, arguably the best heavyweight in the world, and one of the holders of a absolute 25-year stricken undisputed title. We were waiting on him and Usyk to fight against each other. One portion of the undisputed title, only held by the rest held by Usyk. He put him on the back burner. He knocked him down. The only person we've seen knock him down is a Cunningham early in his career, and then Wilder, who is Wilder, one of the greatest power punchers in the history of the sport. With, again, the greatest right hand that I've ever seen in boxing. Those are the only people that put him down to that level of danger. And Ngannou did it on a check hook, knowing that AJ is somebody who is as much as we hate to say it, he's chinny. He's chinny. He is indeed chinny. We didn't know if he could take the power. And he walked in unabated and unafraid. And said, if you land something on me, so be it. But you're going to feel what I got coming at you. You're going to feel this power. Put him out in the round. Didn't have any fear whatsoever. Almost like, how dare you step in the ring with me? That right there, that is the AJ that we need to see. How dare you get in the ring with me? How dare you think you're on my level? That's the AJ that we need to see when it comes to this fight. And if we don't, if we see that, we got ourselves a real marker for success. And Dubois can't beat that. He can't. Even with the rejuvenated mental fortitude and career as a whole, he can't beat that. But if we see AJ's will wane, any way, shape, or form, it's going to be back to Andy Ruiz, back to square one. That's what we're going to see in Anthony Joshua. I hate to say it. I hate that that's the truth, but it is the truth. It's the truth in the matter. AJ, if he doesn't have the will to stand up and be as confident as he's ever been, with the mental fortitude of you don't belong in the ring with me, we could see Dubois absolutely have an upset. We absolutely could. We absolutely could see Dubois hold the upset and do something that shocks the world, shocks everybody, and makes it so that, shoot, I couldn't believe it. I can't believe that this happened. That's what we could see. That's absolutely what we could see. And if we do, hey, AJ, you're still young. But at this point in time, we're going to have to look at it and say, AJ, if you lose against Dubois, I don't know. Honestly, I do not know. If AJ loses to Dubois, let alone gets knocked out, you'll never be Usyk. You'll never be undisputed champion. You'll never be champion, potentially, if we see this happen. But again, only time will tell. That's all we can say. Only time will really tell how this unfolds. But again, we still got more to cover on this show as we briskly move on to the NFL. And I told you we talk about multiple things on this show. We got football to cover, absolutely. And with football on the horizon, we got to do it not on the horizon. With week 1 and week 2 starting this week and last week. Oh, we got so much to talk about. Like with the latest news in the football landscape. Tua Tagovailoa. My gosh. Not only did the Dolphins lose to the Bills, 31-10. Von Miller looking like his old self with his Achilles injury, I believe looking fully healed now and having the ability to really have the explosiveness and the speed back. Defense looked incredible. And it was swarming against the Dolphins. And specifically when it came to Tua Tagovailoa. Oh boy. Multiple picks, 3 picks, 1 for a pick 6, and then ended in what was the most dire of situations, another concussion. Ironically enough, brought on by Damar Hamlin, which was, I'm telling you something. You couldn't write a better script if you tried. Damar Hamlin said, we need an ambulance, but not for me this time. Oh, no. Oh, no. He's the one that laid the boom and put Tua Tagovailoa out this time on the field. And this is what, his 3rd concussion, I believe. I believe it's his third concussion. On the 34th concussion in his career. Had 2 back-to-back in the season. That detrimental one that we thought, my gosh, is he going to ever play again? At one point in time, the viral clip of him on the ground with his fingers sprayed out because he was out like a light. Muscles tense and everything. This is incredibly disturbing. Beyond just the game of the Dolphins, beyond just the dominating loss, putting them at 1-1 and 1-1 at home versus a top team in the Bills, who again look to be a team that is built to push for a title and potentially give the Chiefs again another run for their money. Who knows? Though they haven't been able to get over the hump since. Still looking as dominant as ever. Josh Allen still looking great. But when it comes to the ability to actually have consistency, now you're looking at Well, with Tua Tagovailoa, but where am I? What is he going to be? What is he going to do? And should he play football again? That's the biggest concern. Should he play football again? He's already paid as one of the highest quarterbacks in the NFL. What's his contract? 160, 150, 160 million? Just got paid. Now with this injury, again, another concussion. We saw greats like Luke Kuechly retire after 3 concussions in his career due to him just, I need to handle my health. And we don't want to just put somebody down before they even get started again. But this early in the season, and you're still deemed as one of the starting, as the man in this offense. And this is your 3rd concussion in nearly consecutive years. We're looking at a situation where, look, is it good for your health that you should play? And I don't know if it is. I really don't. It's a concerning conversation to have, but it's necessary. It is absolutely necessary. Because if it's the case that he is not able to actively play, it's completely understandable. Because with his career on the line, with his life on the line, is it worth it? Is it worth it? That's the question. Is it worth it? Is it worth the potential life-altering ability or life-altering effects that it could have on your life if you continue to play football? Because it's regardless of how much protection that they're trying to give in the NFL, it is still, this is football. Anything can happen. Since anything can happen, we're looking at a real concern for the worst. And it may be better for Tua's career to have the cleats hung up. If anything, this is also a great testament to guardian caps that people have been talking about. People don't like them. People think they look ugly. People think they look stupid. Well, now you see why they are necessary. Now you see why they're regarded as a legitimate protective piece in games that people can choose to play or choose to wear. Because it shouldn't be that we're looking and saying, my gosh, this could have been avoided. Because this could have been avoided, potentially, if we required people like Tua Tagovailoa and others with a history of head injuries to have to wear guardian caps. Yes, we understand. People may not like the look, but even regardless of that, we're looking at a definitively working product that makes this game safer without taking anything away from the integrity of football, as we've seen with other rules. Like how you can't go at the quarterback. Like at how tackling is now being in a very muddied conversation. All of this. We've seen other stuff drastically affect how we see the game. But this isn't one of those things. This is a viable and apropos solution until they get helmets to the level of they have that same extra protection without the look that everybody says they don't like. Until the next generation of helmets come about that are indeed safe or safer as technology continues to evolve. This could and should be rectified. Jimmy, sorry about that. I had it. Oh, I don't want y'all to hear me coughing, but this could and should be rectified. It can be. And this is a real big factor. That's why guardian caps should be seen as a viable and necessary thing, at least for people with previous head injuries before. And positions like O-line, D-line, who are always essentially in a car crash every single time there's a play in the football. Every time. And again, until there isn't a helmet-driven solution with the advancement in technology, as we know that the NFL is always trying to make the game safer, this should be seen into the guardian caps as a real necessity, not option, necessity that players should be needing to wear. Because stuff like this. Because now one of the biggest talents in the sport, one of the highest paid in the sport, are gone in terms of potentially for the year. We don't know what at least for a good chunk of the season. And we don't know if he will even play again, depending on how he views his health and how doctors view his health. There's a lot to take into account. So much to take into account. But the main thing is, it's necessary. It is indeed necessary. So you can take all that, it doesn't look cool and stuff out the window. People's lives are still on the line in this game. And this is incredibly necessary to make it safe. Absolutely. Also, earlier in the week, with the Jets losing to the 49ers 39-19. Well, he got through a game in terms of Aaron Rodgers. However, what does that mean? Well, it didn't amount to much really. Threw a pick, didn't have a great game at all. QBR rating of under 100. And the Jets defense, who was supposed to be one of the top defenses in the league, especially with everybody being fully healthy, gave up 147 yards rushing. Couldn't stop anything from the 49ers. This is the 49ers team without CMC, without Christian McCaffrey. They still had the replacement running back in Mason had 147 yards. Everybody was scrambling for him in fantasy draft free agency. Everybody was trying to get him because it was like, who in the world is this brother? And how was he running roughshod of what was supposed to be a top defense in the Jets? Now, made them look like chumps. 147 yards, 20 plus carries, a touchdown. Offensively, the 49ers could not be stopped, both in the air and on the ground. Looking like another primed and ready season to have their way in the, not just in the division, potentially against all the NFL, get back to the Super Bowl, potentially. Oh, they're looking like a threat. The real thing, especially when CMC comes back. My gosh, I can't wait to see that. But strictly when it comes to the Jets, A-Rod, what's going on? You, yes, had an Achilles injury, recovered, and all year to get back in the flow of football. It's going to take you some time, potentially. But the Jets got you because they want to win now. That's the nature of the beast. Jets got you here because they want to win now. They want to win now mentality. They need and put pieces like Lazard, like Wilson. They got pieces to make your team a win now situation. And regardless of what circumstances may surround A-Rod, with them revving back up, you still got to produce at least better than this. Putting up only 19 points, getting replaced by Tyrod Taylor in the fourth quarter. That just, no. And you're one of the kings of comeback when it comes to football. This is preposterous. And it shouldn't happen. And the Jets, with this pick, or rather with this man, with this, again, as Stephen A would say, it's bad butter. It's a bad man. One of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen in NFL history. That is undeniable. But what is deniable right now is his ability to continue to produce and perform. To have still that same it factor. We have to call it into question. Whether it's because of injury or not. If we see this type of play continue, we could say this is the end of what we knew as Aaron Rodgers, that bad man. Very well could be. Again, going up against a top team doesn't change the fact that what happened happened. And his individual performance, no, sir, was not up to par. It just wasn't. And if this continues, we could have a real issue on our hands. And finally, when it comes to the NFL, Ravens versus Chiefs, the game to kick off the NFL season, strictly what we need to talk about, not just in a close affair, not just with the Ravens losing to the Chiefs 27-20 by a touchdown. They missed out on potentially upsetting the team and having anybody ever rise to fame. The Ravens have me concerned, at least to some degree, because of what we saw from Derrick Henry in week one. With them, multiple carries, I believe with 10 plus carries, only 38 yards. Lamar Jackson being the leading rusher on that team in that game when it was supposed to be Derrick Henry taking the brunt of impact and outright hits and being the dominant player that we know he can be. Again, goal line wise, hey, you scored the touchdown. No problem. Still, he's unstoppable from 5 yards out. Get it. Completely get it. But when it comes to the ability to I just saw. Appreciate it, Adam Hurley. Appreciate you coming in on the show. I'm glad you joined in on this first stream of the Welch Report. Sorry that I caught your chat late. Again, stuff is moving slow on my end, but even still, yeah, I throw up every time. I throw up all over my dough. Yeah. It's again. This is they should be a top team, but this is just a real concern when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa. It's just the brother at this point. Not only did he play bad, but now with all this money and he potentially may be out for a elongated period of time due to the injury history of concussions that he's had in his career. The question becomes, what will it be? What will it be? What will his career be now? And will it even continue? It's a scary prospect. We're going to see as time goes on, especially with what his doctors say, what his internal team says, what he probably talks with his family and all that. We're going to see how his mental state's going to be because he probably still wants to play. But the grander scheme of life is bigger than just football. And because of that, we have to look and see what does he value more? Does he think he can still go safely? Or does he think that it might be, it's too much of a risk for his ability to be and enjoy the money and fame and notoriety that is garnered for him and his family? It's a you know, like Nello. I see what you mean. Well, I'll say I respect the opinion. We'll still hold that as hey. It's how you feel. It's how you feel. But again, beyond that, getting back to the Ravens, with Lamar still being the man to run the show in the running game, when they got Derrick Henry to be the guy to be the workhorse, and making sure that Lamar can be more of a passing threat. Not saying he needs to change his style, but to take the weight of carrying multifaceted offenses off him. Yeah, exactly. Troy Aikman retired as well. Again, Luke Kuechly, we brought up before, retired from being in essentially constantly concussion threat. What was it? Two or three concussions in his career. One of the greatest middle linebackers that we had ever seen. All of them retired. Mike Webster probably had concussions who knows how many times, but kept on playing through it. Then we know what we saw with this research that found what CTE did to him and his brain. Antonio Brown, we see what he is now, maybe in part due to what we saw from that hit from Vontaze Burfict. When he got clocked upside the head on a crossing route, targeting by Burfict, one of the dirtiest players I've seen in NFL history. And from that point in time, was never the same. Not saying that was the whole issue or that was the main cause, but there's no denying that we can look back at that hit and say that may be what started all of this that we're seeing from what was and who was one of the greatest wide receivers that we had seen in football. Point blank, period. So no, CTE is no joke. And it's not a joke that we see that Tua's career legitimately needs to be taken into serious account as to what is it that he needs to do. And it may be the step away. For the sake of his livelihood, it might be the step away. But again, reverting back to the Ravens. Lamar and the Ravens. As time goes on, I think we'll see their offense get better and better. In terms of Derrick Henry looking more like the old Derrick Henry and that two-punch combo of Lamar and Henry in the backfield. That's probably going to be even more deadly, as I'm speculating, as time goes on, as the offense gets more and more revved up. And even then, with it just being carried by Lamar, still put up 27 points on the past Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs, still led the drive down the field to nearly get the tying touchdown. That was, again, got the KD treatment from Isaiah Likely, who was honestly unlikely in this game. It was unlikely that we thought that he did not score with that touchdown pass. But hey, lo and behold, KD treatment, foot was just too big. Landed on that white line. Got called back into the game. Plain and simple. But a phenomenal find. Yes, he missed that one pass over the middle of the end zone when he was scrambling outside, understandable. But still, he made up for it with a pinpoint accurate, perfect throw. But his feet was too big, plain and simple. But as a quarterback, we know what Lamar can be. MVP winner, one of the best players in football, one of the best quarterbacks in football, outright bar none. One of the top 3 faces of this QB game. The best dual threat that we've seen in the NFL today and potentially in history. There's an argument he's climbing that ladder. Over Cam, over Michael Vick. He's climbing that ladder of being potentially the greatest dual threat and mobile quarterback that we've seen in the NFL history. No question about it. So he's got the leadership aspect. He's got the ability to make this his and take advantage of a still open division that he could lead this team to victory, potentially get to a Super Bowl. I still think Lamar Jackson can lead this squad to a Super Bowl. He is that talented. Had a better year than Josh Allen last year. People still dogged on him for it, which made no sense to me. More passing yards, or at least just as many passing yards, better QBR, less interceptions, more dominant on the ground as well, and better QB percentage in terms of accuracy for the entirety of the year. The whole year, there's an argument he's the second best QB in football. There is an argument between him and Josh Allen. And I think that Lamar Jackson is better. Just strictly based off of the talent that I know I've seen him do. Both individually. This is going to work in terms of the Ravens. Let's not pump the brakes. Let's not go full stop and say, oh, nah, Ravens are out, they're done. Nah, look at what happened. You lost to the Chiefs. You had an opportunity. Lamar missed what should have been a pinpoint easy touchdown. Then overlook what he did to get them into that position in the first place. Overlook the great plays that he made driving down the field. Overlook the pass that was a touchdown but then got called back due to it being out of bounds by the skin of a foot. This is a brother who is indeed one of the best QBs in the league with what can be one of the most high-powered offenses in the league with a solid defense to boot. It's not right off the Ravens yet. This team is still built to be successful. And this team is built to be something special. This team is still built to be a threat to anybody in what either the AFC or the NFC. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what division. It doesn't matter what type of play style they go against. It doesn't matter what type of personnel they're going up against. It doesn't. It does not. Not with this Ravens squad. I'm not even a Ravens fan. I'm a Panthers fan. And we are in dire straits. I have no business watching any game that the Panthers play because they are absolutely horrendous. I am losing my mind with this level of decrepit, absolutely, every word imaginable, delusional, decrepit, horrible, utterly despicable, unmitigated failure by David Tepper, by the coaching staff, by our draft picks. Everything is outright a shame. This is what the Browns felt like when they went 0-16, when their organization was just outright despicable. This is what Detroit felt like before their come up, when they went 0-16. Absolutely horrible. This is terrible. Makes me sick to my stomach. So I have no dog in this race. I have no favoritism. It is just strictly what we see with our eyes when watching two of the best go at it. Lamar is a player who doesn't deserve all the disrespect, doesn't deserve all of the ire that we see put his way. Jackson is a brother who on this Ravens squad can be something spectacular and will be when this offense fully gets acclimated. And if we see, again, this is always a potential, but if we see Derrick Henry legitimately get back into the prime form that we saw on the Titans when he was the best running back in the league at one point in time, at least number 2, there will be no issue whatsoever. None whatsoever. And we will see them improve and be as dominant as I almost guarantee they will be. By midway point in the season, by 9 games, we will see that the Ravens are indeed a dog of a team. That everybody better start giving Lamar respect now. Because once he takes it from you, he'll leave you in the dust. Guarantee it. Also, Franklin, brother, thank you for coming back onto the stream. Happy born day. Appreciate it. Happy that I'm here. Happy I'm alive. Birthday week. My birthday was early in the week, but we're doing the stream now. Was trying to do it on the day of, but some stuff came up. But the point being, we here, we live, and sadly, we about to go. I'm not gonna lie. We about to go, but we covered boxing. We covered Edgar Berlanga. We covered Canelo. We covered Tyson. Not Tyson. But we covered Deontay Wilder. Go back and watch all the stream. We covered Tank's potential next fight. We got so much that we talked about on this show. I appreciate you still coming in and joining. Please go back and rewatch it. Absolutely. But we gotta go. I gotta head out of here. We got some stuff to take care of as well on the week. But trust and believe. I heard y'all votes. I heard what you say on the community notes. If y'all want more live streams, we'll give you more live streams. We'll make this every episode. We'll aim to make this every episode that we recorded live and then post it on the regular thing for everybody to watch and see. Absolutely. But again, I've been Jean-Luc Welch. This has been another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch, and I appreciate you all coming in and joining me on this special first legitimate podcast stream of The Welch Report. It was a little bit rocky, I understand. We're still trying to get stuff figured out, still trying to adapt and work out how to best make this stream as accommodable or as accommodating and as enjoyable for everybody to watch and listen to. But again, as time goes on, we will still make it happen and make it work. We'll continue to do this again, keep on testing it out, and we'll try to make this a continuous, consistent thing. Absolutely, so you all can interact. But I've been Jean-Luc Welch. Y'all been wonderful. Happy birthday to me. Can't wait to go and sit back and enjoy it all throughout the weekend, especially on the weekend. Peace and love, and we are out of here. We're going to be back next week for the aftermath of Canelo versus Berlanga. Trust and believe. Be blessed. Be safe. Everybody have a good night. Or good day. Excuse me. Excuse me.